So, if you guys look on the screen share, this is something basic I made probably 30, 45 minutes using y'all's assets. Um, it's very, very simple, very simplistic. Uh, if you notice, the player moves very slow, though, so it would be something that would have to change. I copy and pasted the player over, but if you notice, the player collides properly and all that stuff. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and show you guys how to do this very, very quickly. So, there are some good things that you guys have going for you. This dungeon assets pack that Alan got.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some things that are kind of a bummer. So, without further ado, the first thing, I don't want to delete the player. I'm going to delete that. So, the first thing you need to do anytime you're doing Tilemap, right? Remember, Tilemap is a plugin, or not a plugin, it's a default system within the Unity engine. So, you don't need to do anything to get it. You already have it. Come on, stop being attached to shit. Okay, so what you can do to get that window is you're going to go to Window and you're going to go to 2D and you're going to go to Tile Palette. All right, it brings up this tile palette. Now, you guys already had a couple palettes already made, which is Central Hub, which I'm assuming from some of the assets they came with palettes already pre-made. And then you had Dungeon. Now, this one was a lot more nasty. I'll actually show you guys what it looked like in a little bit. But I'm just going to keep this tile palette instead of making a bunch more new files. But I'll walk through the steps. So in here you have create new palette. You can create a new palette. So you know what? I'll just start from the beginning. So we'll say tutorial palette, right? We'll call it tutorial, okay? All right, it's going to be rectangle. It's going to be automatic, cool, create, okay? Then it's going to ask you where you want to save it because, again, it's something that's saved, okay? I'll just save it in the assets so I can delete it when I'm done. But you guys save them wherever you want. Okay, and I have this empty palette, and it literally tells me what to do. Drag tiles or sprite into sprite texture assets here. Now, remember how I said you guys have good and bad things. So you guys have good things in the fact that in your dungeon tiles, they're already broken apart, right? Every single tile... Let me dock this real quick. Every single tile here, as you can see, is already broken apart for you. It's not just one big piece of paper that we have to break apart ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. They've actually already, this is the palette, by the way, that I was just talking about. This is the one that they already had for you. So they've already got a palette for you called Dungeon, right?
Okay.
And everything's already in here. Having said that, I am going to restart from the beginning so that you guys can understand how it works. Now, this is the bummer part. Because of the fact that it's not one big piece of paper, I have to move every single piece in individually if I want them to look nice as I put them in. Or I can grab all of them, again, putting them in my tutorial one. When I drag them and drop them in, and I put them on assets, select folder, when it gets done, only one person will probably have to do this, to be honest. But you notice how it's a clusterfuck now?
Yeah.
Right? Everything is everywhere. It doesn't look pretty. If you had a parent object that didn't have every single tile broken apart, then we would use the sprite renderer and we would make it basically drop in already pre-built, sort of to where it would look like something like this. But I digress. Now, one thing we want to do before this, and I skipped over it, so I apologize. When we're in these, you notice that we've selected, or that I have gone and I've selected all of the tiles right here, right? These are sprites, right? I've selected all of the sprites. Actually, let me do this somewhere else so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this is the same pack. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select all the sprites. So now I've got sprites up here. I need to make sure this is on Sprite 2D and UI. It is. Cool. Now if you notice, pixels per unit is actually on 100. We don't want that. We want something that's a multiple of 8, and it needs to be the same number no matter what we're working on. So a good number to go with is 32, right? You guys have heard 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go with 32. One thing we need to change down here is the filter mode. It needs to be point, no filter. I already did this on your guys' player character, but you guys will probably need to do this as well. Keep in mind, if you do 32, the sprite is going to be bigger. If you do 100, then it's going to be tighter and more defined. Okay? And we also don't need any compression here. Don't ask me what compression is. I'm not going to lie to you. I have no fucking idea. All right. So we've done that to all of these because we selected all of them before it. If we hit apply, all of these are going to adjust and they're going to fit in there a lot nicer. Now, again, talking about what you guys have going for you and what you don't, I'm going to take all these sprites and I'm going to drop them in. And we're going to do this on assets. Again, you guys would probably put this all into your own folder. Because if you guys look, I'll show you when I get done. It's not showing it. Okay, cool. It's a lot of stuff that you're putting into one folder. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you would definitely want to put this into its own folder. But just for safety's sake, I just did it there. Okay.
So so for the assets and then for the player, you're changing
the
like the
pixels per unit.
sprites, the pixels per unit, so that everything fits on top of your level.
So you're changing it for clarity's sake, as well as, and I'll actually show you right now. I can get into that. So we're going to go to 2D object. This is what you're going to need for a tile map, right?
Okay.
You're going to come down and you're going to go 2D object, tile map. It's going to create something called the grid. If you make the grid an 8 by 8 grid, then when I take these things in, grab this, you little bastard. I go to, no, I'm sorry, I need to be on the tile map. When I get on the tile map itself, I want to paint on the grid. Of course, it's going to make me look like an idiot. So let's say I want to do, I'm just trying to look for connecting pieces real quick. These two, right? You see these two pieces, I want to make a hallway. Okay, so I click there, and I click here, and it snaps. See how that snaps into place there?
Oh, okay.
Whereas if I had it on, if I change the grid to 1, 1, that, now you're doing this, and you got to literally find it perfectly. Does that make sense?
Okay. So putting everything on, like the pixels. Whatever. What did it say? Pixels per inch or something?
Pixels per unit.
Pixels per unit, and if you
Yes.
do it by eighths.
So pixels per unit, the simple way to put it is pixels per unit means every Unity unit, how many pixels are they rendering? Which
Right.
a unit is a Unity cube. So if I come up here and I go create 3D object cube, you'll see that cube. Now we take this cube, come here. Oh my god. Take this cube. This cube's gonna be a pain in the ass. So there's an issue with the tile maps where they don't like to let you out of the tile palette when you're working with it. Double click on this to get rid of it, and then it allows you to work in the engine again. So there's technically supposed to be 8 pixels of these per snapped grid square. Does that make sense? So 8 this way, 8 this way, 8 this way, and 8 this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas if we did 1 on this, so 1, 1, then you notice that the grids are literally the same size as a square. So that's why we do 32 pixels per unit.
And it was default at 100?
Yes, it defaults at 100. And if you
Okay.
talk to anyone that works in 2D Unity stuff, that's their biggest gripe. Is that why the fuck is it defaulting to 100? No one uses it. No
Wow.
one. It's ridiculous. All right. So let's set this grid back to 8 by 8, right? And then, so you have this jumble in here. What you have to do for editing in the tile palette, it actually threw me for a loop earlier today because what I did is I was smart and I took a few seconds to go through shit. Hello, Ellen. Took a few seconds to go through shit before I taught you guys because I didn't want to sound like a complete idiot. I went through and I basically moved stuff around and kind of broke it into different groups here, right? Now, it kicked my butt, though, because when you click on this and you go, okay, I want to move it, click on this, and, okay, why aren't you moving? I need you, go, move, and you get irritated, right? Well, what you can do is you have to make sure you click on this little edit button. If you don't click on that edit button and hold shift when you do it, I'm sorry, control when you do it, and then hold shift while you're doing it, it will jack up on you. Does that make sense? So that's how you move
so you
stuff.
have to hold control shift.
So you have to be on edit.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this. You hit control to select it. And this allows you to like select big groups if you want to hold control down. And hold shift to move it around.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
For
that makes
some
sense.
reason my tile palette is being a pain in the ass right now. Why is my tile map being a pain? Alright, so going back to what we had. Why is the tile map being a pain in the ass?
Right now. Okay.
Is it because it's in 3D?
Yeah, probably. That would make sense. Well, no, because the tile palette should not be. You notice how the tile palette's cutting stuff off, right?
Yeah.
The sprites are bigger than the tile palette, and that should not happen.
Mm.
That should not happen.
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out. I was trying to figure that out with John.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
Okay.
Anyways, grid to 8 and 8. It'll still work. It's just they're on top of each other, which is really kind of annoying. All right, and I'm going to go back to the dungeon tile map because I already have them broken apart over here. Okay. It's going to take time to break them apart, and it's going to be a pain in the butt, but you can. If you had just the parent sprite, so let's see, do we have that for any of these? Ninja Adventure, okay. These are all individual sprites. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If we had just the parent sprite and we went in and we did sprite editor and we broke it up and all that stuff, then we would be able to do it without it being jumbled. You would just bring in the picture and it would break it apart for you.
Okay.
Okay.
So say if we didn't have these tiles and we were just going to do plain solid color ground, like just shapes.
Yep.
To kind of block out a level, how would we do that?
So there's no point in not using these if you have them, right?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying like so obviously we wouldn't use the same ones for each level though, right?
That's true. That's true. So you would have to create a new palette every single time.
Okay.
Which, again, if you look at like Central Hub, this is a new palette right here, right? Now,
right.
Keep in mind that, there's nothing wrong with using the same palette for every level. And all you do is you replace the palettes later on with different sprites. So
we need to use sprites for tile mapping?
Yes.
Even though we're going to have an artist later to make sprites?
Yeah, you'll just replace them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Usually, I mean, you guys have some pretty damn good assets, so they're probably not going to replace these kind of sprites, but like your player character, they'll probably replace that because they're going to want to replace things that are going to be high streamlined things that they can use in their portfolio. and that you guys can use in your portfolio. So anyway, so with tile maps, we've kind of talked a lot about the admin stuff of how to kind of set them up. But now we can get into actually making the tile maps. So first thing I want to do is I want to do this. It's going to be base layer. So that's our base, right? Now that base, one thing we can do if you would like, that is up to you guys, is you can do this where you zoom out and just do this whole thing and fill it. Or even better, take the paint bucket, right? Just paint entire sections, right? So now that's your background. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Right.
Now, I'm going to go back to the ones that I broke apart. All right, now I'm going to take these, and so I have my backdrop. So I'm actually going to change the name of this to backdrop. Name backdrop. Okay, now I'm going to create a new tile map. And this one, I want to paint on this new tile map. Now, granted, I need to do this as this one's going to be base. And you don't have to do that whole fill-in thing if you don't want to. But now I want to work on the base. So you got to make sure you change this. If you don't change this, you're going to be drawing on the wrong tile map. Okay? So now I'm going to click on this. As I zoom in, you'll see that I can just place that there, place this here, place this one. Let's put this one like down there, and we'll put this one down here, okay? So now I can take this, and I can drag it just straight down, right? I'm gonna do the same thing here. Okay, and then I can do this here. If I want to delete, I can hold shift and drag over it, and it deletes it.
Nice.
If I want to, let's see if I can find the right one. That's not the right one. That's not the right one. Come on, where are you? There we go. So if I want to, so that, you notice how I had to find the right tile, but now I have this, so I can actually rotate these. You got to find the right tiles. And I can come back up here and I can go boop, boop. Also, you'll notice that you can actually just paint right over top of them, right?
Oh, sweet.
They replace each other. Okay. So now we have this top hat, right? Now I can do, let's say I want to do, again, just take, what is this one, isn't it?
Heck yeah, I like this a lot better than the other fucking levels.
Once you get good with it, you throw up levels like it's cool.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a lot easier to work with.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
It's a boatload easier to work with. That's why I was harping on you guys to do it. Like, I don't try and make you guys do anything for no reason, you know? That is not my goal in life. Okay, so we got a top hat. Whatever. You can make this really cool. You can do really cool designs. I'm not an artist. I don't claim to be. All right. Now, let's have some fun here. So let's create another. Actually, we'll do it up on the grid. We'll go to
Always do it on the grid. So always add from the grid.
You don't have to. You could probably add from here and it'll be fine. You can also duplicate if you'd like, but you don't have to. So we're going to change this one. We're going to say collidable.
Wow.
Okay, and the reason for that, or actually, let's do this. You guys were talking about environmental hazards, right? Say hazards. So now, let's say, so the reason I broke this apart like this, if you guys look, holding control allows you to drag a section, by the way, just so you guys know. I'm going to be working on hazards. Okay. So let me drag over, grab this. And as I'm placing these in, I'm going to do that. Do this. Now, you guys probably don't think there's a big difference, but if I click on this, you guys will see that black line, right? These sprites have very, very tight or very minuscule differences to them. So it's going to take you a little bit to set up the things. But what that is this is supposed to symbolize the side of the water, like the edge of the water, right? So notice I have this big cube right now, or I can work on this cube, whatever have you. I just want a single cube, so I can hold shift and delete those, because I don't want those damn things there. All right. Let's see, do we have water anywhere else? Or is that the only place we have water? Okay, so...
Well, you have the water on the right side?
I do have the water on the right side, yes. I'm trying to look for...
Well, I mean, the one that drops down on the right won't have the line on the left.
Yes.
So in the...
I get what you're saying. So...
Oh, okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Well, I just got a message from John. Is it alright if I'm going to switch over to the Mac side and record this meeting?
I'm recording it already, boss.
Oh, hell yeah, I'll tell him. Heck yeah. I'll tell him right now. Riley is recording.
So we've only got 2, so let's do this. And we'll just say that. Cool. Alright, again, I'm not an artist. I don't claim to be. Right? But it's on you guys to actually, make stuff look good, right? So we have these. Now, I'm going to go to the hazards, and what I'm going to do... Actually, first, let me go to the grid. I typed in collider already. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's called a composite collider, 2D. All right. What that means is it's a composite collider 2D. It automatically throws on a rigid body. I need to make this rigid body kinematic. If I don't make the rigid body kinematic and I hit play, the whole tile palette falls.
Holy shit. Okay.
Right? So I need to...
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead.
So I need to make sure it's kinematic, and it will stay where it's supposed to. Now, I don't know where the fuck everything else went.
Huh?
Yeah, it all disappeared. So the reason for that is the ordering layer.
Ah, okay.
So if I want my hazards to be behind my walls, which I don't, but if I did, I would put it at 1 or 0 to be underground, right? So think of them, remember how I was talking about a shadow box yesterday?
Yeah.
This is how you adjust the shadow box, all right? So we'll say 3. Actually, I really don't like how that looks. So we're going to get rid of those. Okay. But notice, I can't get rid of the walls right now. Why? Because I'm on the hazards layer. The walls are on the back or on the base layer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to say that these 2 grates are hazards, okay? We'll say these 4 grates are hazards. That if you walk in them, they'll hurt you or something, okay? So now I'm going to click out of this so that it lets me, okay? Let me find my main camera real quick. So the main camera is going to need to be pulled out. Cool, it's already orthographic. Awesome. Should be. It's a 2D project. That's not going to help at all, by the way. I just do that because I don't like to have it right there. So I need to go over here. I need to do size is 50 maybe? Do 50. Okay, cool. All right. Push this to the side. Now, on the hazards layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a Tilemap collider. Now it's automatically created a collider. So, as I move down, and again, the player moves really slow right now. Let me see if I can jack up the player's speed real quick. Let's do like 50. Probably way too fast. but it'll get the point across. Holy
my
shit.
God.
Okay. Let's do 10. Still too much. It was on 0.07, so maybe 1 is... Okay, so that's still too much because you guys are not seeing what we're wanting. 0.5.
I think you're also in 3D as well. I'm not sure if that matters.
Don't think it will. But you notice, okay, so we got collision now. You guys see that? So the reason the player was going through is if you look, the player's collider right now is tiny. It's very, very tiny. I increased the player size, Alan. I don't know if you weren't here for that. So the player collider is obviously too small as well. So if I made this 1 by 1, now the player collides properly. Okay. So now we have this player that moves at a speed of 1. It runs into the stuff and collides to it. Now, if I did... You guys have like a damage player script already?
Yes.
You do?
Or wait. Well, I mean, it's from the player damage. It was from like it should be already in the game.
I believe you. I'm just asking if it has it on there or not.
Oh, yeah, it should. Player damage?
So if I make that a trigger, right? And I come in here, obviously the player can go into it. Now, granted, the order and layer, with order and layer, it's in front of the player. Having said that, if I go to my player, and I go to add sorting layer, player, then any other layer that comes will need to be behind the player, right? So now, oh, come on. Oh, I gotta set them to that layer. So now I want to set this to player layer. There we go. So now the player's in front of this. Now what you can do is you can set on this on this hazards tile map, you can set that collision script to damage the player. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so now you have hazards.
And then for the walls to actually work on the outside, we just do a collider and then shape it to that small brick.
No, you don't have to shape it to anything. So we have, let me go back to 2D. So we have the base, right?
Different layers.
Say that again?
Would you have to put that on 2 different layers, like have the floor on one and then the walls on the next one, and then automatically add the colliders to that?
Yep.
So it's not the floor and the walls?
Yep. So
Okay.
what you guys can do is you can look for a tile map that is a little bit tighter, right? But what we can do is this base, all this base does right now, see if I can move it or if it'll let me. No, it won't. If you notice, the base, I know it looks like the whole world's moving, but that's because the backdrop is on. If I turn the backdrop off, and grab the base, right, you can see that the base is actually moving, right?
Okay.
Let's reset this to 0. Okay. So doing different layers allows you to turn on and off things too, which is pretty cool. All right. This, you can treat this as a game object. Set active true, set active false, whatever have you. And it'll do exactly what you want. So now I grab this base, which again, as I just showed, is this top hat, right? And I go tile map collider. Now there's a tile map here. A tile map collider here. Now, I want to make it used by composite. Oh, not used by composite. Used by effector, I think is what I need. Grid used by effector. Okay. All right. So nonetheless, we have collision, right? Now we have our hazard, which the player can walk on, and we have our collision. Does that make sense?
How would we make it to where? Because now with those colliders, you can't walk down those little hallways. Would we be able to make it to where it's just the wall?
So that comes into what one you want to use here. So
Right.
if I were to do, let's take this off. Right now, let me do another layer called tile map. No, I don't want a grid. I just want the damn tile map. Delete. All right, we'll call this one walls. Okay, so now we have walls. So let's go. We're gonna take this. We need to make sure we're painting on walls, right? We'll throw this here. Again, the coloration is off, and you guys are gonna have to fuck with shit to make it look pretty. That's not why I'm here. I'm not an artist. I keep saying that. But no one ever listens. Okay. So I have these. Grab like this one, and I'll go boop, boop. I'll grab this one, and I'll go like here all the way across. And then I gotta find. Is there a gray one somewhere? Oh yeah, that corner one right there. See how that's got a little lip on it? Like that tiny little lip. Grab this one, that'll go there. This one will go to that. And then this one will go here, boop, boop. And then this one will go here. And again, if you guys set up your tile maps better than I did, it's going to be more helpful. I did not set them up very well. I was just kind of throwing them together. So now I have this barrier, right? You guys kind of see that, right? Obviously it's not up here, and I can do it up there if you guys would like. Let me get rid of these. I don't want those. I want... Nope. It's not what I want at all. I just want another one of these. Boom. Boom. I could do vents there or whatever have you, right? So the coloration's off, and again, this comes into you guys doing the art. But now I take these walls, and I take the walls, and I have them have the tile map collider on them. Okay.
Oh, cool. Okay. Tile map.
So now, where are the walls being a pain? Oh, 3. There we go. So collider's still there even if the art isn't. But now I could do that. So granted, your player character is very small. At least his sprites are. His sprites are a little small. If we do like, probably 10's a little much.
7, 5, yeah,
5 or something like that, right? So now he's colliding with those outer walls and not the inner walls. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you just have to find the right
tile.
The right tile, yeah, and that's something that I'm not really going to cover because obviously it's just a tedious task. But that's what you guys get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can put that damage volume on these objects right here, and they'll damage the player when he enters it. It's really based on what you want to do. I mean, I could do a whole nother. So let's say I wanted to do this, right? I turn off that grid. I make a new 2D tile map. So this is grid 2. We'll say this one's base, right? I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. Thank you. Go central hub, which is something that you guys downloaded, I'm assuming. And I grab this, and I go... Okay, so you see how that's all kind of janky like that?
It's because the pixels per unit?
It's not the pixels per unit, it's a grid. The grid is 1, 1. Instead of 8, 8. Right? Because we want units of 8.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So now we could literally do this if we wanted to, right? Of course, I'm going to do this. We're going to talk on, we're going to do on base. So these, now this is a pixels per unit thing. So again, this is a completely different tile map set, and I haven't done it yet, right? But these are going to be your 100 pixels per unit. So if I go to wherever these are, which this is your central hub. So TR. I saw it. Okay, and then it's a quick way of finding shit, by the way. It's a tile map. It's tiles. These are all these tiles here, and you notice that they're already in tile form. They're not necessarily sprites anymore at this point, right? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask you, you know how like on those tiles that you're showing us, where do you have that set up in the project? Not that, but you know how like how you have it separated and organized.
Like this?
No, the other ones, the dungeon ones.
So the dungeon one, this, I separated this myself. This is what it came in as. So what you have to do is you have to hit edit. You have to click on whatever it is you want to work on. Right? So let's say move. You have to control click to grab it, and then shift click to drag it and move it around. Control click, shift click. You can grab several of them and shift click that way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt. It really is. Their tile map system needs work. Bad. So anyways, I did see something on here, however, that I want to point out. Where is it? I saw something that it was a picture, and that's what I wanted. Could have sworn I saw a picture somewhere. So these are very similar to what we were talking about before, where they're already broken into their own little stuff, right? Again, you guys need to put it in your own folders. If you guys get a chance, try and clean up your folders a little bit. If you guys get a chance, but
yes.
So you have all these sprites here. They're kind of unorganized. You see how that is? Whereas if where was it? I could have sworn I saw this one. So this is a tile sheet, right? This is an actual tile sheet. If you guys can see, it's got a bunch of shit on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 32 pixels per unit. Okay. I'm going to make sure that we're point no filter because we're doing pixel art. And then I want the compression to be none. I'm going to apply to that pixel sheet, and then I can go in the sprite editor. And now that sprite editor, you notice, is jumbled as fuck. Right? Shit is everywhere. If I were to do what it has there, and I drag this on here, the good news is it'll come in organized the way it is on here once it gets done. The bad news is because of the way the sprites are broken up, there's going to be sprites on top of sprites. See how like we have half of a sprite here, half of sprites there?
Yeah.
Like they're all kind of janky, right? They're all kind of really weird. So what we can do is we can go to sprite editor. Since we know we set this up to be 32 by 32, right? So we can do sprite editor, slice, and we want to do by cell size, we want to do 32 by 32 slice. Now, these are broken up properly. Now, the problem is when we do that, apply, we look in here, now we have groups. So we're actually going to have to break it down a little bit more than that. So sprite editor, maybe these are 8 by 8. Again, I'm just going off what you guys have. Maybe 8 by 8. Slice. Nope, they're not 8, maybe 16. 16 by 16 slice. They're 16 by 16. So these ones are designed to be 16 by 16 slices.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's not a big deal.
I was trying to figure this shit out yesterday. I couldn't figure it out. And
So
yeah,
now,
that's how you did it.
Yeah. So now when I grab stuff from over here and I want to paintbrush it, it's going to be a little small because we're 16 by 16, right? Now if I go to here and I do 16, apply. Okay, they're a little bit bigger. Still not going to fit properly to the grid that we made. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now if I do 1 by 1, maybe they will. Yep, they would fit for 1 by 1 grids. So I mean, it's really dependent on what kind of the sprites you pull out, right? So if you're doing that, if you're doing a 1 by 1 grid thing, and you're working with these items, then maybe that's what you need to do for that grid. Even though this grid is an 8 by 8. Right? And if this grid is on top of that grid, come on, right there. If that grid is, you know, let's make this base. We'll just make it death for now. Now you got little sprites everywhere on your game view, right? So it's just how you guys set it up. You just got to kind of tinker with it and figure out what works for your guys' game. For this dungeon pack, I figured 20 or 32 by 32 works well for you guys. If we did end up doing 16, so dungeon. If we ended up, oh, these are the tiles. We want the one like that. If we ended up doing 16 by 16, apply. You guys can see what it'll look like with 16 by 16. Give it a second. See how they're bigger and fatter and they're not as to the point, right? Mm-hmm. But if we brought them down to 100, which is the default, which again, no one really uses, it's 100 pixels by 100 pixels per Unity unit. It looks like that.
Wow.
They're a lot smaller, right? So you just got to figure out what works for your guys' game. What I've found works best for your guys' game for this dungeon pack is 32 pixels per unit with a grid of 8 by 8. And it works, right?
So is 8 by 8 or just increments of 8? Is that just standard across the industry of what they do?
Yes.
With 2Ds?
Yes. They usually do intervals of 8.
Okay.
Yeah, so 8, 16. I mean, everyone's heard 16-bit games, 8-bit games, stuff like that before. So
right.
It's just the way the industry does it.
Right.
You can do 100 units per pixel, but it's very, very tight down to the center. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
If I changed it to 64, it would be even smaller, but it wouldn't be, completely broken. I could do one. I mean, if I wanted to do 128, I could do that too, right? It's best to keep it in units of 8 because most pixel art is made in units of 8, and when you guys get artists, they're gonna make it in units of 8.
Okay.
Because it's gonna be easier on their end. So, if 64 works better for you guys, great. If 8 works better for you guys, great. Just figure out what works well for your guys' team and go with it. This I know is just kind of nauseating. Don't worry about that. That's just me being silly. But like I can if I hold control and grab a group, right? Grabbing a box, but I'm on the erase tool, I can erase entire boxes. wham bam, done.
That's
You know?
nice.
So the tile palette is all about understanding how the tile palette works. Once you understand how it works really, really well. It does. So just a heads up for you guys on that. Do you guys have questions? I know. Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm not. I guess, do we need, as far as like creating these 2 levels we're gonna do for this week?
Mhm.
Do we need to like get together and all work together on this stuff? Kind of like share the screen and everyone have input, or does it need to be a certain way since we have bosses towards just an area at the end of it with a
so
boss? Like, how should we go about it?
So you could definitely do it individually. The good thing about doing it this way, right? You could have someone lay out the level, and then that person's done, and then let's say Alan, and I only say Alan because he did it last month. He drops in the traps, so he just creates a new tile map, and he just only works on the traps with that tile map, right? And then someone else goes through and does the the actual beautification of everything, right? Or something like that. Like, you can definitely pass it around and have it go through stages. That's fine. I wouldn't have necessarily, excuse me, 2 people work on the same level layout at the same time, because obviously it's going to create problems. When talking about a boss is stage, you want to make sure that there is some sort of player restriction on movement, because if the player could just go wherever the fuck they want, and the boss is not going to be threatening, right? If you look at any boss battle, there's usually terrain or something that forces a player to be in combat with the boss. So keep that in mind.
So like just maybe like a bigger area, like an open room that maybe like blocks appear when a player hits like some kind of invisible trigger to where they can't leave the fight area.
It could be blocks, yeah. It could be maybe there's environmental traps that like activate, and that's part of the boss battle, right? So let's say you use these grates that I have here. Every now and then they spew fire, right? Which you could literally get a fire sprite, add the fire sprite over top of the grate, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, as your environmental hazard.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that would probably help a lot with the way you had it, Alan, because I know in Riley's video he did mention that it's hard to tell where the fire is going to come back up when he was trying to time when they'd go on and off.
Yeah, so put it above this panel or above that crate or that.
Yeah, just the crates will show the player where they need to not stand, basically. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You could do that.
Yeah, so this could be our. Yeah.
So
okay.
You could also do if you wanted to, like a shadow of where it would be. Just thinking of the way you guys had it, but I think the grates actually are a better idea. But like for the thwomps that you have, I keep calling them thwomps because that's what they look like to me. If there was a shadow saying where they're coming from, it would help the player be able to avoid it, right?
Like when we shadow, like a just a like darker.
So if it's coming from the top down, you would see a shadow appear and slowly get darker and darker and darker as it gets lower, right? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it's adding the shadow. Okay.
Yeah, it would let the player know that, that they have something they need to avoid. Yeah, so there's that. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. You guys have a lot of different tile stuff that you guys can use. It's just going to take you guys a second to set it up. That's why that was one of the big reasons I was pushing over the break for you guys to do it, because then you guys could set up your tile maps. You could have them good to go, all that stuff. But no worries. So I wanna.
Oh, so whenever you shift it, when you moved it in the tile palette, you hold down Control then Shift to move it around.
Yeah. So if I want to move it around in here, I have to make sure I hit Edit. Or it won't
that's
work.
why. Okay.
And then I hit. I hit Control and I drag over what I want to move. Oh, I'm on erase. No, I don't want to paint. I want to move. Drag over what I want to move, and then hold Shift to move it.
Do you let go of control?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the only way I've figured out how to do it. I was telling the other two that it was kicking my butt for a little bit because I just couldn't remember quite how to move them. So it's going to take a second to rebuild your guys' tile maps or your. Don't yawn, jerk! You're making me yawn.
No, sorry, yeah, I'm still in the parking lot at work.
Oh, gotcha.
That's funny. Oh, let me turn this down. Sorry about that.
You good, dude?
Yeah.
So, does that help at all?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. I was stuck. I can't figure shit out.
All right.
Yeah, our levels were shit.
Oh, they were like I like wiped my ass with that thing. It was, we were just trying to get through goddamn class. Like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
I got you. I got
well, to be honest, I never learned anything about tile maps.
Never
No,
did. Yeah.
you don't get taught it, and it's bogus because anytime you do 2D stuff, you're gonna need it.
Tile map. Yeah.
So.
Oh, one other thing. Are you gonna upload the video today?
Yes. As soon as I get done here, I'll stop recording. I'll upload this video and the video that Natasha and I made prior to. I'll probably put it in Thompson's tech support if you guys don't mind. Just so that they can get. Everyone else can get it because the whole one that me and Natasha did was all on saving, with player preferences and whatnot, and it was way more in detail than it needed to be. But it'll be good for people to watch. So.
Okay. So it's going to be in your channel, in your general channel.
Yeah, I can post it in here, and I can post it in Thompson's tech support if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'll post it in both. I'll post the help or the Yeah, I can post it in helpful videos. For the
helpful.
Yeah, for you guys or helpful links or whatever.
Okay.
And then I'll post it in Thompson's tech support as well.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm gonna stop the recording.